This is Orsi, the old guy at oldguytalkstome.com, a podcast dedicated to helping older guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love. Join me regularly as I share my interviews with experts on various topics that include anti-aging, sex, relationships, and other things that will help you create that life that you want. Now, I want you to do three things. First of all, I want you to subscribe so you don't miss any of this life-changing information. 2, share it with others. And 3, review. Be sure to do all 3. And now for our podcast. Now, I want to make sure that you do 3 things. 1, subscribe so you don't miss any of these episodes. 2, share it with your friends because you know they need to hear this information also. To get this stuff so they can have a kick-ass life. And 3, review this podcast. And if you've got a bad review, that's fine too. This is Orsi, official old guy at oldguytalkstome.com, a podcast dedicated to helping older guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love. And, one of those things, there's lots of things that, you may want to work on yourself. I know people always think that the problem is with someone else, but usually it's with you. It's with you. And, you should look at yourself and you look at yourself in the mirror and say, oh, maybe I'm the root cause of that. And then, and if that's not if the answer is no, well, then you can start blaming other people. But most of the time you can find out that it's you. But in the house, I have Wendi Friesen. And she is a hypnotherapist, and we're gonna talk about a few things. She is not going to do I'm based out of Las Vegas, and so we're not going to do the Dr. Love thing on stage, where they get you to do all sorts of crazy stuff. I will not flap my arms like a chicken either, and any of those things. But we're gonna take a serious look about where hypnotherapy can help you in actually lots of amazing places that you probably don't know about and don't imagine. So Wendi, thank you for coming on the program and the podcast, and welcome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is really fun. I can't wait to get to know you a little bit here.
Okay. So, no one wakes up in the morning and says, gee, I want to be a hypnotherapist. They go like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a fireman or firewoman, I want to be a policeman, policewoman, maybe something else. No one ever grows up and say, I want to be a lawyer. But we seem to get a lot of those. But Wendi, how did you happen to get into this space?
It was pretty weird. I was a single mom at the time. My 2 children were very small because I had gotten a divorce. And I was not doing well because I had a tanning salon and the lease was coming to an end. And I didn't want to renew the lease because business wasn't that good towards the end of it. So I was reading the newspaper. You remember those newspapers? And classified ads, which I never read the classifieds, but I was at one day. And I guess looking for what am I going to do with my life now? So I found an ad that said hypnotherapy school, 6 months long, and a phone number. And it was in Sacramento. And I didn't know what hypnotherapy was. And again, I never read the classifieds. That was just so weird. And so I called them up and they said, it starts tonight. And I said, oh, what? She says, yeah, it's 4 nights a week and then 2 full days a week for 6 months. And she said, it's like $4,000. And I said, oh, I don't have any money. She said, well, you can come anyway for 3 days without paying. Isn't that amazing? And I knew nothing about it. So I went there, and the first day, it was so amazing. I was so excited. It was interesting. It just grabbed me. We all lie on the floor at the end, and she did a hypnosis session on us, and I was like the most thrilled I'd ever been. So I kept going, and I paid her in little amounts along the way, and there was about 15 students in the class. We had a lot of brilliant instructors, and after 6 months of it being immersed in that, I was still a little timid about seeing clients, but I opened up a little office and I saw clients, and the things that happened to them were just so miraculous. I thought, how did I do something that could have brought on that kind of change for people.
Sure, sure. So let's before we get into the talking about the applications of hypnotherapy, what is the difference between the stuff that we see on stage, the hypnosis and all that stuff, and hypnotherapy? Because I think a lot of times people will kind of mesh the two together.
Yeah, and there definitely is a difference. So we still call this hypnosis when we're doing hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is definitely doing therapeutic things with it, but we tend to call ourselves hypnotists. But the real hypnotism that you're used to, that is the stage show, it it happens because people who volunteer to go up there, they're expecting themselves to do that. They've seen a hypnosis show before and they just have this expectation that they're going to do silly things and then say, I don't remember any of it. And I've done stage shows and I'm always amazed that people will do whatever you ask them to do. It's just the weirdest thing. Sometimes there are people on stage that are truly hypnotized, it takes a little bit to get them out of trance after the show. Or like a man who I had on stage for about half the show, then I dismissed him and he was sitting in the audience. And afterwards, his wife came up and said, something's not right over here. My husband doesn't seem to be like very alert. I think he's still in trance. And he indeed was. But typically, the hypnosis stage shows are a very fun, entertaining show where most people may or may not be in trance or actually hypnotized. It's still fun, but hypnotherapy is such a precise art in that we are doing things to, let's say you have a fear of driving cars and you're not sure why, but that fear has been with you and it's getting worse. And you just really feel this phobia when you get in the car. What I would do is ask your subconscious mind to take you back to the very first time you felt that feeling. Because we've got to get the initial event released and resolved. And then we would take you into the future, into a time a couple months from now when you're totally good driving the car. When you feel that steering wheel on your hands, you're just loving that feeling and you trust yourself. And it just feels like so much freedom. So we've got to go back to the cause of the problem when it's a therapeutic use.
Mhm. Now, you've been doing hypnotherapy for 25 years. Has it changed in what you've been doing over those times, or how has it progressed, or is it still kind of still the same basic principles? Or tell us a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's such a funny question. So I went to the NGH, which was the only conference at the time for hypnotherapists. The NGH was a pretty big deal. It had 200 people, 300 people that attended it. When I went there the first time, it was like they're all a bunch of funny old men. They're kind of they're kind of those watch swinging, oh boy. And I thought, this isn't my tribe, and this is not, it's not the kind of hypnotist I want to be. And they were very biased about the types of hypnosis, and they're all the ones that think you can go, oh, sleep, yeah, just do that. And most of them were very overweight. A lot of them are smokers. If you're a hypnotist, why are you so overweight? And why do you chain smoke cigarettes, So that was an interesting experience, but I did get to be a speaker there and a trainer for them. And it got better over the years. Now hypnotherapists are a lot younger and brilliant people who are inventing and innovating and sharing with each other so that we're all innovating the processes.
Yeah.
So I don't have to learn on my own how to help someone who has fears about going into surgery. I get to go to my groups and say, hey, what do you guys know about surgery fears? What do we do for that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have this rule that, um, and this does not apply to someone that knows how to fix something in particular, but generally, I don't take health advice from fat doctors.
High five there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, if you have a talent for fixing a hip or whatever, some sort of specific skill, okay,
Yeah.
you'll get a pass from me, especially if you have a great reputation. But, there's some doctors that kind of look like, I actually went to a cardiologist once, and a friend of mine, I share the same cardiologist. He was going to follow him, and I go like, Well, he's a disease doctor, but he's not a health doctor.
Wow.
And he was actually
What was his
he was actually
disease?
one of the premier catheterization doctors
Oh, wow.
in the city. Yeah, I mean he was like
Hmm.
the guy, the
Ooh, to
guy.
do that
Yeah, he's
procedure.
the guy,
Ooh.
but he was the fat the guy.
Wow. Yeah, and there's so many hypnotherapists who, in this profession, you're not supposed to have all your shit together, but you got to have most of it together. You should be over a lot of the really bad habits. But it's funny going to these conventions, some of these people, especially the older ones from the older generation of them, they're out there smoking their cigarettes and then telling people how he can make you stop smoking, and they're eating junk food. And
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'll never be doing a program on how to stop smoking cigars. That's for sure. Uh, so, Wendy, what types of things is hypnosis effective in treating in terms of um medical conditions, health conditions, things like that? And tell us some of the stories about some of the patients that you've had.
Yeah, it is so amazing what we can do. Even when I was fairly new at this, I had a little office, and this woman came in that had been really depressed for 2 years, and she's been going to counseling twice a week for 2 years. And she says, nothing has changed. I just still feel hopeless about everything. So I had her go back and find out what contributed to that and triggered that depression. And then we worked on some other issues. She had just done 4 sessions with me, and when she came back for the fifth one, she says, this is just ridiculous. I feel so good. I feel like my eyes opened up again, and I feel like I can live my life in only 4 sessions. And she says 2 years on all these different medications and all these counselors and psychiatrists, and I never felt any different. But in that, and I kept in touch with her, and months later, I only did like 6 sessions altogether, but months later, she still said, I feel so good still. My life is really going places and it feels good. But there's some miracles that happen, like a woman named Martha that she had been unresponsive for 2 years, and she was living at home. Her adult daughters took care of her. She was in a hospital bed. Her eyes were open and she could blink, but that was all she could do. There was no damage to her brain, no stroke, no nothing. But she had been what they'd call unresponsive. So I went to her house, and the first session I did, I just described a little story about when her body was really, just working well. She was in this beautiful um, place in a meadow, and there was a little stream, and she'd dip her toes in the cold water and she could feel how cold it was. And I had her pretending to make these little daisy chain flowers with 2 little girls that were playing nearby. All I did was describe what I was seeing, but I was wanting to get her brain to connect with her senses. So we did that, and the daughters were in the room with me at the time, and they said, how did you know? You described the place that we went with my mother as kids, and the stream and the path and everything, and the little flowers that we made. So anyway, the next week when I walked in, Martha raised her eyebrows. She had not done that in over 2 years. I did some work to get her hands unclenched because they were just tight. You couldn't move her fingers at all, or her wrists. And I talked about her hands being like Play-Doh, that they were like that Play-Doh that she had when her kids were little, and each finger was soft. The next week I come back and her fingers could move. They were soft. And I touched her one finger and I said, lift this finger. And she did. And I said, okay, that means yes. And I touched the other one and she lifted it. And I said, good, that means no. So now her daughters can communicate with her and ask her questions. And then when I came in the next week, she smiled, which it was so amazing. And I just kept getting her brain to re-engage with her body. And I didn't even know how I was going to do that. So I kept working with her, and we got to the point where she could sit up, her body would now move, it was flexible, and they could put her in a wheelchair and take her for walks. But here's the most amazing part of this, in a sad way, sort of, but it gets better. A few months later, after I had not been working with her, the daughter called and said she's in the intensive care. She has a breathing tube in her because she has an infection in her body. They're going to take the breathing tube out. tomorrow. And when they take it out, they said she's going to die because she's not going to know how to breathe. Because Martha never got back to where she was conversational or anything. She could communicate and stuff. So I went in there and I sat down by her bed and I said, you know how to breathe. You've always known how to breathe. And this is a short version, but when they take that tube out of your lungs, it's going to be like when you were born. And the thing you knew how to do was to take a really big breath. Oh, and it'll happen so easily and you'll continue to breathe. And so then some guy walks in the room that was like either a nurse or an orderly or something. And he hears what I'm doing. And he says to her, nice and loud, says, she's not going to breathe. She's going to die.
You probably did you slap him?
Yeah. Oh, how could any living, breathing human being say something so mean and stupid? So now I leaned over, I said, Martha, we know that you're going to breathe. He's wrong. That guy is an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. We got this. So I leave, and it was like 2 or 3 hours later that they took the tube out, and the daughter calls me and she said, as soon as they took it out, she took the biggest breath, just breathed in. She amazed the doctors, and everybody was just blown away that she could breathe. And she's still breathing, and she still did fine. She lived like another year or so, and I think some other complication came up. Isn't that amazing? I mean, all the doctors and all of the tests and all the things they could do, and we got her back to being conscious and, able to interact.
Yeah, I think it's actually amazing, what you can do when you harness the power of your brain. Some people would call it placebo effect. Some people call it all sorts of other things. But your brain has an incredible ability to really change you and your body in ways that are really not really fully understood in many ways.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, we don't understand it. And even as hypnotherapists, we talk to each other at these conferences and stuff, and we're like, I don't understand how I could have made that thing happen. And with athletes, we work with athletes. And I had a golfer who golfed at 7 a.m. every morning. And so he came into my office at like 6:30 for a session, a quick one, every morning, because he wanted to go pro, because his handicap was like 0.0 something. It was very low. So he had his best game ever after we worked together for the first week. And he said, I have had my best game ever and my handicap is almost gone. So, because if you have no handicap, then that's doing good. He did so well and his game just kept improving. One thing I did with him was to make him not get frustrated, but to have something positive that just welled up in him when he made an error or he didn't hit the shot he wanted. He didn't get mad or frustrated. He was still feeling like, that's all right, I can do this. But interestingly, one of his fears that he had about competitions and sports, I asked him to go back to the very first time he felt that feeling. And he said, I'm in Little League. My dad is one of the coaches, and he's always getting mad at me when I make mistakes. And I'm just really scared I'm going to make a mistake when I'm up to bat or if I have to catch the ball. And I'm just really scared because my dad keeps putting me down. And that was affecting his golf game, because those are the hidden messages that kept coming into his head if he made a mistake.
Sure, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
How things like that from childhood can affect you and will continue to do so unless you deal with it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some other medical conditions that are treatable. Let's talk about maybe anxiety and PTSD, that kind of stuff, depression.
Yeah. I've worked with veterans for PTSD, and that's a big one because it isn't like it's one event that happened, it's, just years of torture sometimes. There's a lot of people needing help with anxiety, especially after a year almost of this COVID problem. People are having just horrible trouble because their lifestyle isn't doing the things anymore that used to relieve that or make them feel connected and close to people or events. And anxiety is a little bit tricky. Some people respond really well and some need more sessions because we've got to find out what all the different causes are along the way. But it is an emotional thing. So it makes sense that we can get that anxiety to go away. And it's torture to have anxiety. I don't know if you've ever had it, but ooh, it's not fun.
I have not had. I mean, I've been anxious. I'm not,
Right.
that's true. And but I've never. I'm sure it's happened, but I've never really had what I'd call crippling anxiety, where I just kind of balled
Yeah.
up and into a ball. But I
Yeah.
can see where that could be a
So there's
factor.
there's like three things we need to do. And in hypnotherapy, we're taught that a negative behavior like anxiety actually has a positive intention. And this is something that's new to all your listeners, I'm sure, but there's often a positive intention. So I would ask somebody with anxiety to find the part of you that wants to have this anxiety. And they'll say, oh, well, I don't want to have it. But there's a part of you that does. So just notice where in your body this part is. Does it feel like it's in your chest or in your belly? Is it in your head? And they say, oh, yeah, it's in my belly and it's like red. It's like a ball of red. So now I say, ask that part, why do you need this anxiety? And the answers that come up when we do this parts therapy, it's amazing. And so they'll give an answer that it's to get me out of doing this thing that I hate to do or whatever it is. But then we drill down and we say even deeper, why do you need to have this anxiety? Because we're assuming that there's a positive reason. When we get down to like the third time of saying, and what else, even deeper, needs to have this anxiety, we usually find a very real issue that is something about maybe something from his childhood or maybe something in his relationship or something that he has a really big fear of, and the anxiety is protecting him from doing that, whatever that thing is. So it has a positive intention. And like with headaches, a headache is triggered because of something that's an inner conflict, because there's something going on in the background that you're not aware of, that or something that happened to you and that triggered your brain to go back to a memory or an emotion that says, I'm not good enough, I'm being rejected, nobody likes me, I'm unworthy, whatever it is. Or a headache can also protect you from having to do something that you don't want to do. So we find that positive intention, but we also find what the trigger is for that headache. There's a woman who had migraines every Thursday, and they were intense migraines. She'd been to many doctors for them, but they just flattened her out for the whole day. And she was now immune to the medication that she used to inject herself with and stuff. So she'd been working on this for many years. And she came in and I said, go back to the first time when you felt this feeling, the first thing that made you start to have a migraine. And so she's sitting in my recliner, and all of a sudden her head started shaking and she wasn't breathing, and she was just going, and she couldn't breathe, which I had never experienced that. And I was really quickly saying, what do I do now? And they said, when I count to 3, I'm going to touch your shoulder. You're going to breathe easily. You're going to breathe. Ready? 1, 2, 3, breathe. Good. Now stay right there in that memory and just be in that memory. You're safe. As long as I touch your shoulder, you're totally safe. What's happening? She said, my husband is strangling me. He's got his hands around my neck and he's trying to kill me and I can't breathe. So we go through that event in a way that she was safe and didn't have to relive it. And we resolved it in a way that her mind was okay with and said, can you agree to no longer have the migraines? Yeah. And then I said, what day of the week is it? It was Thursday when he was strangling her. So she had migraines every Thursday for years.
Wow.
And yeah, and so that is a lot to do for a person who's been tortured with, physical things like anxiety and migraines and all the horrible things that humans have to endure.
Okay. Yeah.
The founder of SES Research and the creator of ESSC60, which is a powerful antioxidant. Now, this antioxidant was found to be beneficial by accident when laboratory mice that were given it lived twice as long as the ones that did not get it. That's right, 2 times as long. But other reports by people that have taken this powerful antioxidant talk about major benefits that they've seen in their lives. For me, I can speak about the benefits that I've had, as well as my wife. We've noticed, one, that our focus was significantly improved, and we were able to get more done because we were sharp. Secondly, our energy levels were higher. And those energy levels lasted late into the afternoon when you kind of have that dip in energy, start going a little foggy, not quite so clear, you're tired. Well, our energy levels were really high way into the afternoon. And for me, I slept better. I am a fitful sleeper. I am a horrible sleeper, and I crave a good night's sleep. I started to sleep better when I had C60. Now, you may have different results, but I will tell you, it's worth a try. Now, Chris and his company are the major producers, the major manufacturers of C60. And most people who sell C60 on the market buy it from them and put it into their own formulations. But why would you do that? Why would you buy it somewhere else? When you can get high grade, high quality, highly tested C60 directly from the source. So what are you going to do? Click on the link below, order a trial, try it for a month. Use the promo code Old Guy Talks, one word, Old Guy Talks, and get $15 off your initial purchase. What do you have to lose? I think you have a lot to gain. Try it. Don't wait, don't hesitate, don't procrastinate. Get your C60 now. It may make a world of difference to you in the quality of your life. It did for us. Don't wait, don't hesitate, don't procrastinate. Do it now.
What about like general pain, things like that? Let's talk about managing pain through hypnotherapy.
Yeah, well, something that taught me a lot about pain is it really coming from that part of your body, or is your brain recreating whatever happened, like the injury or the trauma or something that goes along with it. So what I learned was working first with a woman who lost her leg in a motorcycle accident, and she had phantom pain, and she'd had it for a couple years. So I just did some things to get the trauma of the accident kind of resolved. Oh, I felt so much for her. Oh, and then I asked her brain to take a journey down through her body, inside her body, to the place where her leg got damaged. Like not just the place where it was cut off in the accident, but go down to where there's any other damage in the leg and the place where your leg was. And what I figured out is that when we heal an injury, your brain is sending all this force down to that part to heal the injury. When it's healed, there must be a signal that is sent back to the brain that tells it to stop doing that, right? Mm-hmm. And so I felt that her brain was still trying to heal it. So we told the brain, it's okay, the leg is healed. We re-envisioned the leg being whole and healed, and she never had phantom pain again. So there's a guy that I did the sessions on the phone with him. He had lost his foot because of diabetes. They amputated it. And he drank a fifth of whiskey every night and a handful of opiates and would pass out because he couldn't sleep. The pain was so bad. And he'd been going to a pain clinic for a year. So we did sessions on the phone, and I did the same thing. I had him go down into his body and look inside of that foot that was no longer there and tell me what it's like. And he said, it's infected and oozing, and it's raw, and it's red, and it bleeds all the time. And then I said, well, heal it up. Just let your brain completely heal it, make the skin good, the bones, the tissues, everything good. Now bring that message back up to your brain. And there's a little more to it than that, but that was the end of his phantom pain. That was it. I got it. The brain has to know when to stop trying to heal something, and it can't do that if it's missing the limb. But this is for veterans, working with PTSD and with phantom limb pain. It is amazing what we can do for PTSD so that they can have their life back.
Sure. And then there's a lot of need for that because a lot of times they seem to be just medicated.
Mm-hmm. And the medication doesn't work. It doesn't help with depression. The effectiveness of the antidepressants is about placebo.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting thing. What you also do, and I understand is kind of recent work, you also do a lot of work in the addiction
Mm,
space.
yeah.
Tell us about what your experience is with hypnotherapy and addictions and your own personal kind of journey in this space.
Yeah. This is a huge subject for me. My oldest son was going to go to rehab because he was using a lot of alcohol. His life was pretty functional, but he's also using opiates, and so I didn't know anything about rehab, and I didn't think that hypnotherapy was something you used for drug or alcohol addiction. But I made a whole bunch of phone calls, and there was a place in Southern California, and I flew down there with him. That one was like $25,000 for 28 days. And the first day, we went to a meeting inside the rehab, and this man gets up and says, the speaker, he's a professional speaker for like AA and rehabs and stuff. And he says, "Hi, I'm George, and I'm an alcoholic." And everybody says, "Hi, George." And from a hypnosis perspective, what he said next was just devastating. He said, "I've been clean and sober for over 20 years. And I've got to tell you that even after 20 years, every day I'm white knuckling it and just hoping to make it till midnight." What did he just tell them? That's vicious and cruel. And then he says how hard it is every day. I just got to make it through every day, even after 20 years. He's hypnotizing them, future pacing them to believe that. And then he says, in a very happy voice, he says, "Well, remember when on a flight that the stewardess would have those little tiny bottles in the cart? I could steal like 10 or 12 of them. I was so fun. I get rip roaring drunk." So now he just used hypnosis to make them want it even more. So that rehab, when my son was getting ready to leave in a couple of days, the director told these few men that were there, he said, "In 30 days, remember that only 1 in 12 of you will still be clean and sober." Holy cow, more hypnosis in a bad way. So Sean went to 4 rehabs, and I also visited them and paid a lot of money for those. And every one of them, I just saw horror shows of what they are doing that is the opposite of how we should be treating addiction. So I made this program for alcohol freedom, and I didn't really have a lot of confidence that it would work because there's all these experts all over the world doing 12-step. That's the only way.
Mm-hmm.
And people use my program. It has multiple sessions in it that just take you through all these aspects of drinking, quitting drinking, all these things. But people would say, on day 3, I just forgot to drink. It just wasn't a deal. It just wasn't in my life. And long term, these people are quitting without having to try. There's no relapse as part of recovery. There's no you're an alcoholic, none of that.
Mm-hmm.
We reinforce that you're healthy, strong, and in control. And then we create like massive amounts of identity stuff about what it means to be healthy and strong and in control. So one client that did the program, he had quit about 30 days earlier. And he said, "I was at the hotel bar at a conference," and he says, "I was drinking club soda. My friend came up who didn't know I had quit drinking a month ago and bought me a glass of my favorite whiskey and waved it under my nose. So I smelled it. When I smelled that, well, most people, if they smelled that, it would have triggered them to want it really bad.
Sure.
But for him, he said, when I smelled that, I knew that I was strong and healthy and in control. I suddenly just felt this inner strength that was like, no, thanks. I don't drink." That's all it was. I don't drink. Another guy quit with the recorded program. He was drinking over a case of beer a day for years. He said, "I'm 45. I'm a fat slob drunk. All my friends know I am a fat slob drunk. That's all I am. I have nothing else going for me." So in the recorded session, he goes 1 year in the future to where he's no longer struggling with alcohol, but he's doing something that really matters. He's doing something he loves to do that gives him purpose and makes him feel really good about life. Now in the recording, I have no idea what that is, And so he calls me and said, "This doesn't make any sense. In my future vision of myself in a year, I was an athlete and I was kind of enjoying it, but I'm not an athlete. I'm a fat slob drunk." And he kept saying, "It doesn't make sense that I'm an athlete." So he because of that moment, and he just quit drinking. He just forgot about it. He said, I even had a 6-pack of beer in my fridge for months. I never even saw it.
Mm-hmm.
He started training for triathlons, Ironman triathlons. He travels the world. He has been for 15, 18 years going to triathlons. And he's been to the Kona triathlon twice. And that's the top one that you have to qualify for. Had he not seen that vision when he was listening to my recorded program, it just hard to imagine how different his life would be. But this is so the drug and alcohol program. I am so proud of what I've done in that program because it has helped just gazillions of people all over the world who keep saying the same thing that they say, I just didn't even think about it. And oh, a woman stopped me in the grocery store and she said, oh, Wendi, oh my God. I was like, oh, cool. She said, I used your program and I quit drinking. And now in the grocery store, when I'm in the wine aisle and the liquor aisle, so I feel like dancing because I feel so good because I don't need that. It's not part of my life. I want to like get excited.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's helped a lot of people, saved a
Yeah.
lot of lives. And my son is responsible for giving me the gift of teaching me that.
It's amazing how the challenges turn into successes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Wendy, what you mentioned, and this would be probably a good time to talk about how people could work with you, what programs you have available. But I just kind of want to ask the question. You mentioned sessions,
Hmm.
and typically, how many sessions, uh, and I know it's going to be the severity and other things are going to be a factor, but I mean, if you talk about psychoanalysis, people talk about years of being in it, and
Yeah. It's so
I'm
sad.
not sure where they end up, other than, but
So sad.
uh, other than confused, but how many sessions do people normally require as kind of a rule on various things?
Yeah, and it's not like a lot really compared to how much torture you've endured with the problem you have. Usually, I would see someone for like 4 sessions or 8 sessions, and see where we're at. Usually, they don't need much more than that, and even other hypnotherapists, they don't see people long term either. And sometimes maybe we'll do a touch up after a few months. For the addiction work, it's a little different. I have, well, not right now, but people used to fly in and they stayed for 5 days of therapy, and we worked together for 6 hours a day, just session on session on session. So I want to get the whole either drug addiction or alcohol thing completed in that time. And it's really cool. It works to do it as that intensive thing. But
Hmm.
instead of stretching it out over like 3 months, we do 3 months worth of sessions in 4 or 5 days. But usually it's not very many. So a session is 45 minutes to an hour. We can do them online. We could do them on Zoom, which I do, or by phone. And it doesn't take very many if your hypnotherapist is good. And I got to tell you, here's the thing about hypnotherapy, unfortunately. There are people who have hypnotherapy courses to say you're going to be certified and licensed, even though you can't be licensed in this profession. A licensed hypnotherapist for only, and I'm not kidding here, $14.99. That's not 1,400. That's $14.99. These people are just scummy little that they would do that and make someone hold themselves out as a hypnotherapist. So make sure you have a well-trained hypnotherapist that didn't just get his piece of paper.
Well, how do that? I'm glad you bring that up because I've talked about this with other guests in various areas from anti-aging medicine to all sorts of things, and uh, are there any specific organizations that can that function as referral sources, or how do I mean, because everybody's got a great website. I mean, God,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
2021. Everybody's got a great website. Uh, so how do you differentiate as a consumer out there, because I don't know, maybe I don't know
Yeah.
if you experience the same thing when you get out of your area of specialty.
Hmm.
You go out there and you're going like, oh God, I don't know, is that person really very good at eye surgery or not? They got a great website. And they got everybody's got
Mm.
got a few testimonials out there. So how does someone in this space actually seek out someone who's quality?
Yeah. Boy, that is a tough one, and length of time helps and look at their training. Like, for me, I've been a trainer at conferences all over the world, and I've been invited to teach other hypnotherapists because my work is really good.
Hmm.
But you wouldn't know that. I mean, you could read about it and you'd see that I got a lot of publicity and stuff. That still doesn't make me a great hypnotherapist. Reading testimonials helps. If a hypnotherapist just has a handful of testimonials, they probably haven't done any miraculous work. But I would interview a lot of them, get like a 10 or 15-minute consultation with them and see what it is that you like about them. Are they just blowing smoke, and doesn't seem like they really know what they're talking about? Or if you find out that they're just like, yep, I can fix that. We're going to fix that in 2 sessions. No problem. I can do that. Well, they don't know that yet. Like, even if you're wanting to quit smoking, you could make someone quit smoking maybe in 2 or 3 sessions. But what if in the process they go back into some trauma that they had with their grandfather who smoked when they were 3 years old, and now you don't know how to deal with trauma?
Yeah, yeah.
So watch out for the ones that are like quick fix, because it can be a really good quick therapy, but usually that's just people saying, oh yeah, you don't have to pay $1,000 to those other people. I got you for 250. We'll do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So yeah, it's just
But there are
that,
registries now. There are registries that do have
yeah.
a lot of hypnotherapists.
No,
So
there's a very famous hypnotist, and I don't know if he's still alive or not anymore in Phoenix, but he's been around forever. I mean, he was from the 50s and 60s, and I remember him seeing. And I actually went to go see him, and it was interesting. He wanted me to take over his practice.
oh my gosh. Oh my.
And I said, this is, as much as I think there's lots of value here, this is not what I want to do. But he actually talked to me about that.
And he was going to teach you how to do
Yeah, he's
hypnotherapy?
gonna like
Oh boy.
show me
Oh,
but I mean,
oh.
he'd been around, I mean, in the same location. And I mean, he had a wall of celebrities
Mm,
that, he's treated and,
wow.
and actually it was just kind of, I don't know why I completely forgot about that. And then just as you were talking about that, I had to laugh about that. Um,
Wow.
so if somebody wanted to work with you, and you do so as far as private sessions, and also you have some materials that are available. Can you tell us a little bit
Mhm.
about that?
I have several hundred programs that all have multiple sessions in them. So you're not just getting one session to like quit smoking or something, but if you were doing like weight loss or insomnia, or you want to improve your sex life or your love life or your golf game, whatever it is, it's multiple sessions so that we're approaching it from a lot of different angles and you're doing therapy to uncover the causes. And then in person, at my website is at wendi.com, and it's Wendi with an I, so WENDI.com. And there you can contact me and we can have a free consultation as well. But most people, they use my recorded programs and they're really, really good because they're really in depth. They're just not like, okay, sleep, your troubles are gone. They're taking you through all the different things I was mentioning, like doing parts therapy to find the self-sabotage and finding out where that feeling originally came from, and what your inner mind needs in order to help you release this problem and take people into the future to experience themselves without the problem, so that the brain builds the belief that the problem is gone.
Yeah.
And then take them a year in the future when they no longer have that problem, and we get the brain to physiologically build a memory and store it in the same way that we store other real memories. And then your body operates off of that memory.
Yeah. So Wendy, what types of things don't aren't amenable to hypnotherapy that you think in your experience have been a challenge, or that really aren't meant for that?
Well, there's a lot of people that ask me about increasing their height. And I have had so many requests. So there's a program I have that's like this mind-body healing thing with a whole bunch of sessions in it. And so I've told them, well, go ahead and try it. I've read a little bit of research that you can increase your height a little bit, but not a lot probably. So I had them adapt it to increasing their height. And I just don't know that that is really possible or to any significant amount. But here's a good one. You may not have heard of breast enlargement with hypnosis.
No.
No. Well, UCLA and Stanford did research studies on hypnosis for breast enlargement many years ago. A lot of women too. It was a lot, like hundreds. They had results within 6 weeks to 12 weeks that they would have a full cup size increase, and some of them were even more. And they measured their growth. You'll like this. Okay, to measure a boob, you have to let the boob lower into water, and then it's a water displacement. So however much water your tit displaces, that's how much volume you have in your breast. And that's how they measure it. So it's very accurate because it's hard to measure it otherwise because those things are always going all over the place, you know.
Well, it depends on how much of it you put in the water.
I guess they have a way. Yeah. Well,
I'm not buying that one. I'm not buying that.
If you put it in all the way up to like your ribs. But anyway, 2 universities did this and got amazing results with it. So when I was fairly new in hypnotherapy, I made a program for breast enlargement and that they listened to. And the women were thrilled. And they said, yeah, I had to buy new bras and it's still there. 6 months later, the size is still bigger. But the reason I tell you that is because there's things that we don't think we can do to our body with hypnosis. Mm-hmm. But who would think that you could make your boobs bigger? Mm. But you can do a lot of things to change things about your body.
Okay.
So
and guys are going to go all in the wrong place with this.
Well, that's a different show. We're going to talk about that.
We'll talk about, that's right. We're going to talk about that we're going to talk about hypnosis, sexy relationships time. And sex at another time. So Wendi, I want to thank you for coming on the program. It's been very, very interesting and enlightening. I think that we've all learned a lot about hypnotherapy and the difference and the important distinction between that show hypnosis and hypnotherapy, which are 2 very, very different things. So thanks again for coming on the program. Remember, at oldguytalkstome.com, it's all about creating a kick-ass life for yourself and those that you love.
Now, I want to make sure that you do 3 things. 1, subscribe so you don't miss any of these episodes. 2, share it with your friends because they need to hear this information also to get this stuff so they can have a kick-ass life. And 3, review this podcast. And if you've got a bad review, that's fine too. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe, share, and review. Until next time, remember, it's all about creating a kick-ass life for yourself and those that you love.